Hi, I'm Jacqueline.
And I'm Courtney, and this is Caffeinated Crimes.
I love when Courtney doesn't realize I'm recording and we start recording and then Courtney's talking about her eyeball.
I was
So
talking about my swollen eyeballs. Oopsie.
my daughter also loves talking about her eyeballs because she loves that word and she just wants to point out her eyeballs and your eyeballs and the dog's eyeballs and stick her fingers in everyone's eyeballs. And it's
I
a
was
good
about to
time.
ask, is it like a just points or like, hi, here's your eyeball, my
It's
finger's
like,
in your eyeball now?
yeah, it's like, let me dig my finger into
Mm-hmm.
your eyeball and pop it out the other eyeball, you know?
Yeah. Sorry, girl, you cannot touch my eyeballs.
Yeah.
That's hard line for me.
Yeah, we try to point at eyeballs from like at least 2 inches away would be preferable there. But
Yeah.
Merry Christmas week as you guys are
Mm-hmm.
listening to this. We are full on in the holiday swing, in the holiday spirit right now, and you guys are hearing this the week of Christmas. So hope you guys are ready for some holiday fun, some family time, good food, all the good holiday stuff.
Have you finished your Christmas shopping yet? You got 5 days.
Future Jacqueline probably has not. So I don't know about you all, but
I can't say much. I've been slacking a little bit. So
yeah.
I mean, I have most of like the people done kind of. I got lucky because our friend group decided not to give gifts and instead do a trip.
Yes,
So but now, of course, I start seeing everything that would be perfect for everyone. And I'm like,
of
oh shit.
course. You just make a mental note for birthdays and be like, I'll just
I
save that
know.
for.
I
At
know. It's
least
like,
Tiffany's
okay,
is soon, so that helps. So you can go
I
ahead and get
know.
hers.
I know. I think I already know what I'm getting her for her birthday. I won't spoil it on here, but
Oh,
I think I already know. So I'm trying to
I have
head.
only bought Christmas presents for my daughter and no one else. But I don't have a ton of people to shop for. Andrew and I are hit and miss on whether or not we do presents, and we decided not to do presents this year because it's some other stuff going on that we're going to be doing. And both of our families draw names now. So like we each have one person. So we have like four
Mhm.
people plus children. So I guess I still have a lot of shopping to do actually, but
Yeah, it's the children. The children get you every
yeah,
time. But
yeah.
thank God for an Amazon wish list.
Those
Thank
help
God.
a lot.
Those help so much. If you're ever, I actually saw a girl post like on Instagram and be like, is it insulting to make an Amazon wish list? And I literally
Mhm.
responded and was like, as the childless friend of a lot of mothers, please, dear God, make an Amazon wish list. Please.
See, like I always feel weird about like sending the list like unsolicited because it's like I know
Hmm.
our family is going to be getting her stuff for Christmas. And I'm like, I have a list, but like I don't want to send it unless you ask for it because then it's like, oh, I want you to get these things. And I'm like, no, I just have ideas, like if you need ideas. So like if anyone
Yeah.
asks for it, I'm like, oh yes, here you go, check it out. But I feel weird being like, oh, if you need an idea, here you go. Because then it's like, oh, now I feel like one, I'm telling you to get her a present, and two, I'm telling you
Hmm.
what presents to get. And I'm like, neither of those are true, but like, I don't know if you need idea. I don't know. I feel like if people need
Yeah.
ideas, they'll ask. So I just wait.
I always ask because like
Yeah.
Ashton, I think had that too. Like she usually makes a Facebook event for like birthday parties. And she was
Mhm.
like, is it weird to post the Amazon wish list? And I was like, no, just post it. Just
Yeah.
post it. And like she said, like, you don't have to bring a gift. If you need an idea, here's an idea, like
Yeah.
whatever. And I'm like, personally for me, I'm like, send it.
Yeah.
Send it because I don't know. Like kids' interests change so much. And like, I don't
Hmm.
know what they have and what they don't have. Like, oh, you love Bluey? Well, you probably have every single Bluey toy from Target. I don't know which ones you don't
Yeah.
have. And then you're gonna have duplicates. So, it's just it's easier. It's
Yeah. I
easier.
did. I saw this lady on TikTok that was like basically upset about people asking her like what her kids want for Christmas because she's like, I don't need to do my shopping and your shopping. So she's like, just like pick something. Like, I don't want to have to like do the mental work for you to tell you what to pick. And like literally every single comment disagreed with her. And they were like, no, please ask me what my child would like because then I'm getting stuff that
Hmm.
they already have, stuff that they don't like, stuff that's not age appropriate for that. Like, please ask me for
Yeah.
ideas.
Yeah,
Like,
that's the
I'm
thing
just
is
gonna have to
like,
throw it away if it doesn't.
and it is so hard too, because like you go to the store and you're like, oh, well, this is for this age group. But like Ashton before has been like, sometimes I don't even look at that. Like sometimes
Yeah,
it doesn't matter that much. But then
exactly.
sometimes you get something in the age group and it's like, well, my kid's a little bit more advanced than that and had that 5 months ago. And so I'm like, well, I don't want to go spend $50 on a toy. And then you'd be like, oh, thanks. We've been playing for this for a year and a half.
Right.
So, and like, I know a lot of parents too might be like, please don't get my children any more toys. Like, get them clothes or a book or something. Like,
Yeah.
and that's the thing is like, if you just leave people to their own devices, like, you're just going to get a bunch of like repeat shit and maybe shit that your kid's never going to use. And then you just wasted someone's money by being
Yeah.
like, don't ask me.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, like, people want to get like intentional gifts. Like, they don't want to just be like, oh, just here's like, oh, I just got this random thing. Here you go. It's like, no, like, people want to make sure they're getting something that people like and enjoy. And like you said, it's different with like adults because your interests kind of remain the same, you know, over time, or like you talk to them enough to know like if they have a new interest or whatever. But with kids, like, it changes so much. That's like the parents are the ones who know what their kids are into, or like you said, like what their capabilities are. Like if you should follow this age range, or oh, maybe they're not quite ready for this yet, or maybe they're ahead of this, or you know, it's
or
just
maybe
so
we want
variables.
this now to have it for 2 months from now. Like,
exactly.
We want it for the future. Like, yeah, it's really hard, especially, I mean, I feel like even people with kids, like, you know, your kid, but you don't know the other person's kid.
Exactly.
So it's like, I don't know what they want. Like, my
I
kid
would
loves
love a
Elmo.
suggestion idea.
Like,
Yeah.
that kid hates Elmo. Like, I don't know. I
Oh
also wanted
boy.
to point out when I went on to HBO Max last night, I saw Elmo Saves Christmas. And I was like, Andrew, 3 guesses on who's watching this. I meant Kevin. Who 3 guesses on who's watching this?
Who is watching Elmo on our HBO Max? Speaking of that Elmo, so we watched there's like an Elmo Tango Nutcracker special that like just came out like this last week. So we were watching that one, and then like after, and it was like, I don't know, 20 minutes or something, you know, it's a short little. So like after it ended, it like popped up like you know, the suggestions of things you may like. And it was Elmo Saves Christmas from 1996. And I was like, oh, let's watch this. And let me just say, Cookie Monster has had a glow up. I mean, he was looking rough in 96. Poor guy.
I know, they made him like not great.
He was just like sunken in, like he's like
Yeah.
filled out now, and he looks much better. I also was slightly horrified because at one point Elmo or like Santa like gets a bunch of cookies, and Elmo was like, oh, my mom said that cookies make you fat, and Santa's like, your mom's right. And I'm like, oh that's
God.
what we're telling children in 96.
That's why we all grow up with body image issues. All of us 90 babies all have fucked up issues.
Because he started saying like, oh, my mommy says too many cookies. And I was like, oh, he's going to say, give him a stomach ache. And he said, make you fat. And I was like, and then Santa's like, you're right. And then I was like, what is happening?
Santa, don't say that. I'm surprised they haven't found a way to like edit that since.
Yeah.
But
anyway, wow, this is just
we went on
off the rails here.
Long tangent there.
At least it was holiday themed, I guess. So yeah, I don't think we have any true crime updates that I have seen this week, at least. So
I do follow someone on Twitter who is kind of still talking about like the Idaho stabbing that we talked about last week with the 4 students. But yeah, so it seems like they're really trying, like they're receiving a lot of tips about it. So hopefully there will be an answer in that very soon that we can give you guys. We are kind of recording ahead a bit. So if it happens like late December, you'll hear about it from us in January. So
yes, like usual.
But yeah, I can't think of anything else really at the moment. So we'll go ahead and get into this episode. And our sources for this one were the Cinemaholic article and also Homicide for the Holidays, Killing of the Christmas Tree Farmers, which is season 4, episode 3, which is a great show, but I still just don't love the name.
Yeah, just not the best vibe we're going for, you know?
Yeah. Has great information though. Interviews the families. Very great, but don't love the name. So Ethel, Washington is a small city in Lewis County. So in 1985, it was the type of town where like kids would ride their bikes everywhere. People kept their doors unlocked. Everyone knew each other. It was pretty rural and just had like a lot of farmers. So like people were like, you just never locked your door because there was no reason to. There were quite a few Christmas tree farmers. And so at Christmas, it was just really magical in the town. Like the whole town decks out for Christmas. They just really go above and beyond. And so Ed and Wilmenia, or she went by Minnie Maurin, were beloved members of the communities, and they also sold Christmas trees. And they were pretty well known in the community, and they had a lot of friends and a very large family, and their family still lived in Ethel as well. So Minnie actually had children from her first marriage to Aloysius George Hadler. He went by Louis. I can see why, because it's a big first name.
A mouthful of a name. Yeah. Can you imagine a 4-year-old trying to say his name?
Aloysius. Yeah,
Yes.
like they couldn't. But Louis had died in 1958 at the age of 59, and Ed and Minnie married in 1961. So Ed and Minnie would often host like events on their 120-acre farm, especially around the holidays. And on December 19th, they'd planned on having a Christmas get together at their house. So it was like a ladies' church group, and they had a monthly luncheon. So the December luncheon was going to be at the Maurin house, and it was scheduled for around noon. And so people began to show up, but like no one was home. And the Maurins were very dependable and punctual. So everyone was just kind of very confused when no one was coming to the door. So they were like, what's going on? And like the door was locked, which they were also like, why'd they lock their door? They never lock their door. Like, this is weird.
Yeah, like we don't do that here.
Yeah. So after a few minutes passed, the luncheon members were getting very concerned and contacted family members. So family members did get involved. Again, like I said, the door was locked, which was unusual. So the family then went to a side window in the back to gain entry, and they actually broke a pane so they could like unlock the window and get inside. So they were inside the house for a while, just kind of like looking around for anything. And whenever the time for the party passed, they just had a feeling something was wrong. So Ed and Minnie's car was also missing from the house. And so they were like, did they go to the store or to church? Like, did they get confused on where the luncheon was, or did they go pick something up? And so the family started calling like other family members to see if they heard from them. Like, did they go out to the store and get in a car accident and they're in a ditch? Like, what's happening? Something's not right here. And later that evening, they did call a sheriff's office to report them missing. And just after 6 p.m., the sheriff's office responded to the call. So they did do a walkthrough of the home, and some things were just kind of out of place. Like, it wasn't like ransacked, but things just weren't exactly where they should be. Like, for example, Minnie's purse was found behind the couch with a newspaper laying on top of it. And the family was like, she took her purse like wherever she went. Like, if they did leave to go somewhere, like she wouldn't have left her purse here. And Ed's watch was also found in the bedroom on his nightstand, which was another item that they were like, they wouldn't leave the house without. Like, he always wore his watch, especially when he went out. And in the bathroom, there was a box of bank statements that was like opened up and on the floor between the sink and the bathtub. Obviously, this is not where you normally find bank statements. That's not some light bathroom reading, not really
not usually
where you keep those. And so these few things are odd, but the house overall wasn't disturbed. Like, there's no signs of a break-in or robbery. And the officers really didn't believe there was like a crime yet. They were like, Ed and Minnie probably just got confused, or they got their dates mixed up. And officers did go driving around for miles because they were like, maybe they did drive off the road or get into an accident, and we just need to find them. They're an older couple. Maybe something happened. And they were searching the back roads, the trails, the lots, the hospitals. There was no sign of the couple. And again, this is a very small, like, tight-knit community. So this was a big deal with like Ed and Minnie missing. Like, it's a very big deal in a small, tight-knit community like that this would happen. So since their green car was still missing, they put out an APB through Washington State. And the next morning, people had heard on the radio that they were looking for the couple in their car, and a person at the Yardbird shopping center called in and said a car matching the description was parked there. So at the time, Yardbird was like a really popular store. It's kind of like Walmart today, basically. So officers were able to confirm the car did belong to Ed and Minnie. So obviously they're like, okay, maybe their car just broke down. They hitched a ride, nothing too bad yet.
Like, still hoping that there wasn't like a huge deal, that just like, okay, something's just kind of off. And
yeah. And so the windows have been frozen over. So they did like clear them off to look inside, and the front seat was empty, but there was a lot of blood within the car. And the driver's door was unlocked, and they found the keys in the ignition. So they popped the trunk because they were like, there's a lot of blood in this car. They're missing. I guess we got to look in the trunk. But the trunk was empty, thankfully, for all the yard bird people who were shopping in that parking lot that day.
Yeah.
So once they started to investigate inside the car, they did see the significant blood and a red blanket on the seat. They also saw a man's hat and a woman's white shoe. And they also looked under the blanket and saw even more blood underneath it. And they also found shotgun shells inside the vehicles. And there were cracks in the windshield on the passenger side. So they're like, there's been at least 2 shots like in this vehicle. And they believed that both the driver and passenger had suffered from gunshot wounds, but they didn't know, like, based on the amount of blood, like, are they still alive or are they dead at this point? And again, still, where are Ed and Minnie? So, like, their house is empty, their car is abandoned with blood, but where are they? So once the car was in evidence, they did process the car for fingerprints, but they did not find any. And on the afternoon of December 20th, they prepared to search and process the house. So they did secure the house and began processing, again, hoping to get a few fingerprints that could produce a lead. So they also started to like reevaluate the circumstantial evidence. So they were like looking to see what else was kind of out of place based on family statements. So Ed and Minnie usually had the blinds open and like Christmas tree lights on so people driving by could see it. But the blinds were closed, which they said wouldn't typically be how they would have it. So they're like, did someone like close them so nobody could see inside? And they also found more bank statements in a fireplace clean out, which is like outside of the house. So they did contact the local bank, and the local bank did say that Ed and Minnie were in there withdrawing the money the day they disappeared. So Ed had contacted the bank around 10 a.m. on December 19th, and he was asking to prepare a withdrawal of $8,500 in cash, which is like $23,000 today. So a big amount of money.
Yeah, that's a large amount of money to just need suddenly.
Yeah. So they arranged for him to come at a specific time, which was about an hour later. So Ed told the teller he was helping a family member purchase a car, and that's why he needed the cash. So detectives contacted the family, and they're like, we don't know what you mean. Like, nobody was buying a car. They weren't helping anyone. And so now investigators are like, okay, it's likely someone made them go to the bank and withdraw that money. Like, this is probably the motive, is money. So investigators are searching this lead, and friends and family are like continuing to search everywhere for the couple. Everyone in the community still searching for them. Like, it's still been a few days, they're still missing. And then on Christmas Eve, police got a phone call from someone who'd been out on a logging road. He said he found something big. He thought it was a mannequin in the ditch, so he approached it and then realized it was actually the body of an elderly female. So police responded immediately. And at first, they only saw one body, so they weren't really sure if it was like the Maurins, because they're like, we would expect to find them both if it was Minnie. But they did notice on her body like a wound that would likely have been from a very violent shotgun blast. And they did see a blood trail that went up about 29 feet to like a blood pool. And they discovered some false teeth, a pair of glasses, and a comb. So they followed the roadway, and it did lead to another body, and this was a male victim. Their clothes had been risen up on their bodies, so it looked like they'd been drugged there, and they did find a white tennis shoe similar to the one in the Maurin's car. And at this point, like, police are pretty positive they had found the bodies of Ed and Minnie Maurin. And it did look like they had been shot from a shotgun from behind, both in the neck area, and both were killed instantly. The buckshot was the same one as they'd recovered from their vehicle. So they're like, it really appears they've been killed in their vehicle, brought here, and dumped here.
Mm-hmm.
So on Christmas Day, detectives found several latent prints when they were processing the house, but all the prints found either matched family members or the 2 victims. So detectives believed it was possible that whoever killed the Maurins likely knew them. They were like, it can't just be like random. That's so rare. Like, it's got to be someone in the family. And since it is most likely that these are to be committed by someone you know, they decided to like start interviewing like extended family members. And detectives also had a press conference about the case and detailed where the car was found and urged anyone who knew anything to call in. So a few people did start to tell detectives they'd seen a green car like that with an older couple driving and a man in the back. And many people in the Yardbird area saw a man leaving the couple's car, and it was a male who had brownish hair, potential facial hair, wearing an army-style jacket and carrying an item that was like wrapped in a towel. But brownish hair and potential facial hair, I'm sure that was a white man with brown hair is probably half all the men in Ethel at this point.
Exactly.
So the item did seem consistent with like a long gun, and with the help from witnesses, law enforcement was able to form a sketch and release it to the public.
So they did receive like thousands of tips at this point, but there was one that really stood out to the investigators. So there was like this young man who was involved in some petty crimes, like his, facial features had some similarities to the sketch. And this man was Ed and Minnie's grandson, Michael Hadlers. So Mike was known to steal, like even from his own father, and he had gone into his father Dennis's safe and stolen money before. And he had been in trouble with the law for years. Like he's got a lot of just, petty crime stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
So police interviewed Mike, but he denied any involvement in Ed and Minnie's murder. They asked him to take a polygraph, and Mike told detectives that morning he was with his father going to work like pretty early in the morning. He said they saw Ed and Minnie's lights on, and they thought it was odd because like they're not usually up that early. So they did remember, driving by pretty early. It seemed like they were awake. And Dennis did confirm Mike's alibi, and Mike did pass his polygraph, so he was eliminated as a suspect. So once they cleared Mike, they asked other members of the family to take polygraphs, but they all passed. And so Mike was very upset at the time, like after being a suspect, and asked law enforcement to go out and find the real killers. Like he's like, I can't believe you would accuse me of doing this. Like, please find who did this to my grandparents. So detectives tried looking into who worked with Ed and Minnie, but they just kept coming up empty. They also kept trying to follow any leads generated from the sketch, but again, like nothing is just panning out. And 7 years passed by with no answers. So in 1992, they recruited some other people to assist them, thinking that like maybe some new eyes will help reveal something. So they started combing through these thousands of leads and saw one that said you should contact Robin Rife. So Robin is the estranged wife of Rick Rife, and Rick and his brother John Gregory Rife were known by law enforcement because they were just always in trouble. They were very close. They had a reputation for being rough, particularly Rick. They're constantly like complaining about not having any money and like trying to figure out ways to make money. Basically, they're just like really bad people. Like most people were scared of them. They were drug dealers, enforcers. They would threaten people, very intimidating, just, not great people.
Not the people you want around, and like the people like when you're walking down the street, everyone's like, yeah, don't look at them. Just don't do business with them. Don't buy drugs from them. Whatever you do, avoid them.
Mm-hmm. Especially in a small town like this where it's like, who's who, and they're like, you steer away from these guys.
Mm-hmm.
So investigators learned that the Rife brothers had moved to Alaska in 1987, and no one locally had heard from them since. So they decided to track down Robin, and she was actually serving time in Arizona on drug-related charges. So they contacted her caseworker, who agreed to put her on the phone, and they called and said that they were working on a double homicide, and she said, "You mean the two old people? So I think you know something here, Robin. This seems So they're like, yes, they were killed around Christmas in 1985. And she said, well, I just dropped them off. So she said it was late at night on December 18th, and she dropped John Gregory and Rick off about a mile from the Maurins' home. Later the next morning, she got a call from John Gregory saying to come down and pick him up. So they drove to the scene where she saw a body, and she remembers Rick saying to John Gregory to get her out of there. So now Robin is putting John Gregory and Rick at the scene where Ed and Minnie's bodies were found. So they were hoping that Robin's statement would be enough to charge and arrest the Rife brothers, but since she had a record, the prosecutor at the time didn't feel comfortable going forward based solely on her testimony. Because, you have literally nothing else. You just have this one person who's currently in prison saying that these guys did it, and it's like,
saying my estranged husband and his brother did it. So it's
exactly.
Like, is that going to hold up?
Yeah, exactly. Especially you hear it so much, oh, they're already in prison. Like, are they trying to get a deal? Like, if they, read out these people, is she going to get less time on her sentence? So they have nothing to corroborate it. It's like, you don't want to go to trial and lose based on flimsy evidence.
Yeah.
So 3 more years pass, and in 1995, which has been a decade since the murder, they still don't have enough to take the case forward because Robin was the only witness. So every 6 months or so, Detective Dave Nizer would call up just to like keep in touch with her, like make sure and kind of, maintain that relationship. However, in 1995, her father answered and said that Robin had died. So at this point, police were like, we're pretty sure we know who did this, but our only eyewitness has died and we have no other evidence. So 14 more years go by. So in 2009, the lead detective, Dave Nizer, retired, and the case was handed over to Detective Bruce Kinsey. And he was actually 10 years old when the murders were committed. So, like, to show you how long this has been,
Yeah, which I thought was just crazy of being like,
Yeah.
that's how cold this case is like,
Mhm.
now the lead investigator, or like lead detective, he was like, yeah, I was 10 when it happened. I remembered it. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
like this poor family just lost their like grandparents, their parents, like so close to Christmas. And now you've had to go all these years.
Decades. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Bruce Kinsey decided to look into seeing, like, did Rick and John Gregory like have any relatives who they could speak to? We're pretty sure it was these guys. So how else can we get this information? And so they did find a sister of Robin. So she said that Rick and Robin had came to her house that year. She said like Rick and Robin and their children usually weren't very clean, and like their clothes were kind of, older, torn, just not well put together. But that Christmas, all the children had brand new clothes, and Rick and Robin were both dressed nicely and had brought gifts for everyone. She said that Rick also had a very large bag of cocaine. So Robin's sister found it odd because Rick didn't have a job at this time, and like all of a sudden they have all these nice things. And she said Rick was also asking if you could trace shotgun pellets, and then eventually was like, that's stupid. Never mind. Okay.
Never mind. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Pass me back my bag of cocaine.
Yeah. So outside Robin's family, detectives tracked down another possible witness. So when they spoke to Robin before, she had given them a new name, Les George. So Les was a friend of Rick and John Gregory, and prior to the murder, the three had been hanging out, and Rick was once again complaining about not having any money, which you could just like get a job also, but okay. So about a week before the murders, all three of them were riding in a car together, and they passed the Maurin home. So Les said he made a statement that was like, if you need money, they have quite a bit. And Les also remembered Rick offering to saw down a shotgun for him. Okay. And Les wanted Rick to chop it down so he could like put it in his pickup truck for protection. Les said it was hard to get his gun back, but a few months after the murders, he did finally get it back. So like Rick was like, oh, here, like I can saw it down for you. And then a while goes by and he's like, where's my gun? Like, can I have my gun back? Like, you're just supposed to be doing this thing for me and giving it back. And now my gun's missing for months.
Yeah.
So when he finally got it back, he's like, I feel kind of weird about this. Like, I think it might be connected to the Maurin murders. Like, it was after that had happened. They knew it was a shotgun. He's like, I don't know about this. So he put it in his parents' like closet. And his parents also had a bad feeling about it. So then his father threw it into Mayfield Lake.
He's like, I'm done. Don't want it in my house. Just.
So the shotgun was never able to be located, and they did believe that Les felt intimidated and threatened, which is why he chose not to go to law enforcement. But like, bro, you're literally hiding and then throwing away the murder weapon.
Yeah. But I feel like this happens a lot in these like small town cases where it's like these two guys who you're like, what am I supposed to say? Like, I probably don't have the best history. I don't fully trust law enforcement. Like, they're gonna kill me if like they know I go to law enforcement about it. Like,
that's true. It's like you come forward and either police think you did it and you're arrested because you have the murder weapon, or they arrest these other guys based on your statement, and then you have to testify against them, and then them and their family,
especially
and
since they had no leads.
You.
If you're like, here's the weapon, they're like, okay, handcuffs. Like,
yeah.
So yeah,
right,
and just being like, so like, it's an ongoing theme, like with Rick and John Gregory, people being terrified of them, and that's kind of why this case was cold for so long, because they were such horrible people.
Yeah. It reminds me a lot of the episode we did, I don't even know how many months ago now, but the disappearance of Laura Bible and Ashley Freeman in Oklahoma, that for so long, like everyone knew who did this, but nothing came of it because it was this small town with these three bad men who had like so much power in the town that they were just easily able to intimidate everyone into keeping their secrets for them. So it sounds very similar.
Yeah.
So in 2011, Detective Kimsey presented the case to the prosecutor, and they felt they had a good amount of evidence, and the prosecutor agreed. So the arrest warrants did come through on July 8th, 2012. But then Detective Kimsey learned that John Gregory had actually died a few years prior in Alaska. So now detectives go to Alaska to deliver the warrant for Rick. And of course, Rick denied any involvement and would not cooperate with law enforcement. They told him he was under arrest and read him his charges. And the only thing he said was, well, I guess I'm going to need my medications. So the town was shocked because it seemed to them like this just came out of the blue. Most of the case against Rick was circumstantial until one resident came forward. So Jason Shriver had information. He said he was on his way to get his wisdom teeth out with his mother, and they passed the Maurins in their car. So he said Mr. Maurin was driving, Mrs. Maurin was in the back seat behind him, Rick Rife was in the passenger seat, and John Gregory was in the back seat. So he remembered this because he's like, that seating arrangement is very weird. Like, why are they sitting like that? And they knew the Maurins, so they waved, but nobody waved back. So after the murders, Rick and John Gregory saw Jason in town, and he was 17 at the time. So they cornered him, and like they drove by his house daily. Like they did whatever they could to intimidate him. And they're like, if you say anything about what you saw, we will kill your brothers, your mother, your father. We will kill you, your entire family. Like they know that he saw him. They know that he saw them, and they were just like intimidated him until he agreed not to do anything. But Jason does claim that over the years he had tried to reach out to the media and law enforcement, but it just didn't go anywhere. He was interviewed in the documentary and is still like really upset about the whole situation. He feels like that he betrayed the Maurins. He's like, I just don't know how to get over that. But it's like you were also 17 at the time and you're like terrified. And what are you supposed to do?
Think of how many people in this case didn't say anything because they were terrified, and they were adults, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. So in November of 2013, they went to trial, and Jason was the star witness. The courtroom was packed. I mean, this is a very big case for this small town. So they believe that the Rifes went to the Maurin house thinking they had money in the house, so it would just be like a home invasion robbery. They're like, we'll go rob you, take all your money. But then they discovered like there was nothing in the house. So that's when they went to the bank later that morning. So after they went to the bank, they took the Maurins to the woods and shot them and dumped the car in the Yardbirds parking lot. So Rick was found guilty of 2 counts of murder in the first degree, 2 counts of kidnapping in the first degree, 2 counts of robbery in the first degree, and 1 count of burglary in the first degree, and received a sentence of 103 years. So in 2014, Rick was also handed an additional 6-year sentence for the sexual abuse of a 10-year-old girl sometime in the 1980s. So again, this guy is just a general piece of shit.
Terrible person. Yeah.
So Ed and Minnie are buried next to each other in the St. Francis Xavier Cemetery in Toledo, Washington. And that is the horrific murder of Ed and Minnie Maurin the week of Christmas in 1985.
Yeah. And it's just so sad, like, how long the case went cold and how long the family had no answers. I mean, you didn't go to trial until 2013. Like, that's almost 30 years later.
Like how many family members are gone now? Like how many, like the children who now have, like the grandchildren who now have their own children who are like adults. And it's just like, it's so sad. And especially being in a small town where it's like, I mean, I'm sure the family knew what the speculation was, but that nothing could be done about it, you know?
And I think Mike said it in the documentary as well. He was like, I mean, we didn't even really celebrate Christmas anymore after that. 'Cause it's like, how do you? Like, how, you know, and it makes me think of our Christmas episode last year when the family's just like, we can't, how do you celebrate Christmas anymore after this?
No.
Huge tragedy happens. Like, it's just, you don't even want to think about it anymore. Like, you don't want to celebrate it. Like, it's just such a time of darkness, especially for so many years with no answers.
And especially too, I feel like if you lose a loved one, like any other time of the year, it's like that day is hard. Like maybe that month is hard, but like with Christmas, it's like the whole holiday season brings that back. You know what I mean? Like starting in like the beginning of November until January, like that whole time frame is like the Christmas season. So like, especially like they had a Christmas tree farm, like everything related to it's like there's no way to not be stuck in that year after year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This is
depressing.
Always hard to, Okay, Courtney, what is your perk of the week to end this on a on a positive note here.
Okay, so my perk of the week, I'm making that last night. Kevin and I went out for drinks with John and his girlfriend Alicia. And I'm saying this because he did call me out in person because I mentioned Friendsgiving and he wasn't there. And I didn't mention him as one of my favorite people. So
wow, Courtney, so rude.
I knew I'd forget I knew I would forget someone. And
I mean, you did acknowledge that you were probably forgetting someone. So
one track mind. So to make it up, here is my full perk of the week is you, John. It's you. That's it. So to make up for my shortcomings, but yeah, so it was a fun time. We tried to go to one of the bars here is like a holiday pop-up kind of thing.
Cool.
But it was packed. So we did not. Of course. It's very small and it was like everyone was like standing shoulder to shoulder. So
yeah.
We chose to just go somewhere else where we wouldn't be bumping elbows with everybody in Knoxville. But it looks Makes super sense. Cool. So I'm going to have to go on like a weeknight or something when it's not so fun. Busy. But yeah, so that's my perk of the week. Jacqueline, what's your perk of the week?
My perk of the week in the spirit of the Christmas season is just that my daughter is currently obsessed with like all things Christmas. She absolutely loves The Grinch. She will ask to watch The Grinch 400 times a day. I remember today that she has a Grinch book that I put away last year because I'm like, oh, I'll save this for Christmas time next year. And then I found it in the closet today. I'm like, oh yeah. And so she was super excited about that. She loves all of our neighbors, like Christmas decorations and has to wave and say hi to them. Like hi snowman, hi Grinch, hi every Santa. She doesn't say ho ho ho. Just all of the Christmas things. She has a little singing Rudolph that, she likes to play and like she likes to turn on and have sing and play with it. She wants us to sing Jingle Bells nonstop now. That is her latest favorite song.
I cannot wait until she sees me in my Grinch onesie.
She is going to lose her mind. Like absolutely lose her mind. You are going to be her favorite person for all of eternity.
That's my goal, is to be all of the children's in my life's favorite person ever.
yes. It's a very worthy goal. So that is my perk of the week. Just this lovely holiday season. It's her second Christmas, but like last year, she was a baby. Like she didn't know what the hell was going on. So like now she like understands like the different Christmas things and able to start doing some of those things with her. And Courtney's sister is making us a customized like Santa cookie plate. So, we can start
that's cute.
Putting out cookies every year for Santa. And so she keeps texting me like, what about this and this? And because I'm like, I don't have any ideas. Like I can come up with something, or if you just want to like run with it, I just want like a customized, plate that we can use every year for Santa's cookies. So yeah, super excited about that.
That is exciting.
Yeah. And if you want to tell us about your holiday pop-ups, your John, your
your John. Please don't send pictures of your dick.
Your friend named John, who you left out of your Friendsgiving. Your holiday, you guys know the drill. All the fun stuff. We are on Instagram at Caffeinated Crimes Pod. We are on Twitter at Caff Crimes Pod. That's CAFF Crimes Pod. We are on Facebook at Caffeinated Crimes Podcast. Gmail at caffeinatedcrimespod@gmail.com. And if you are so inclined, if you want to send us a beautiful little Christmas present, we are on patreon.com/caffeinated crimes, where we are getting close to like 30 bonus episodes. We got a lot going on up there. All kinds of little fun goodies. This month we did a live watch of a Christmas horror movie with Patreon. So if that's something that you guys would be interested in, make sure and check that out.
Yeah, we got a lot of good perks going on over there. So be sure and join. Or if you want to gift one of your loved ones a present and you still need an idea, get them a subscription to Patreon. Just
there you go. As little as $3 a month, guys.
Yeah, you could just commit to a year for them. And that's 3 times $36 and you're done with their present.
Beautiful. Yep.
But if you don't feel like doing that or don't want to do that, you can give us 5 stars on Apple or Spotify, because that helps a lot. Or any other, platform that allows stars. Or you can subscribe and like all our videos on YouTube. Don't down thumb it, up thumb it.
Yes.
But in the meantime, go have a cup of coffee
and don't commit a crime.